I set up my first web design company at the age of 13. I was a millionaire by the time I was 19 doing e-commerce. I come from a council estate. I do not come from money. And by the end of this video, I'm going to have explained exactly my mindset, the steps that I took to get there, and show people that setting up a business is not as scary and as difficult as people would make you think. Now, I get a lot of people disbelieving me that I set a business up at 30. And yes, it does sound unlikely because it's not normal. And what is considered normal is what the average person does. And now, most people watching this do not want an average life. I, as a young person, never wanted an average life. I never was an average person, and I always pushed boundaries. People believe this isn't fact, that you cannot step outside of what you have been destined to do through your social positioning in life, through what your parents have told you, what society's told you, what school has told you, what the government's told you. That is bullshit. And I truly want to empower people through my story and explaining exactly what happened to me to do the same if you want to. This video is purely about showing you that it can be done and you can follow the same path or a similar path should you want, no matter how old you are, whether or not you're 12, 11, 15, 40, 60, it doesn't matter. The only thing stopping you from doing it is you. So I realized at school, I was very lucky in the fact that the internet did come about while I was at primary school and secondary school, but I saw the opportunity. And I realized, being a massive geek, that the internet was the way forward. This place is going to be a place where people go and search things. There's going to be lots of websites needed for companies. I wasn't quite sure how it was going to play out or what it was going to look like as a whole and how it was going to progress, but I knew this thing was important. So me being a geek, I studied things a little bit more. I saw these websites popping up. I was using Ask Jarvis. There was Yahoo for searches back then. Google wasn't even a thing when I first started. Well, it certainly wasn't a big company if it was, and no one was using it. Now, I started looking at how websites are made, and I used to paint Warhammer little figurines. And I decided that I was going to teach myself how to make them because I realized that everyone's going to need one of these things. People are going to search on this thing on the internet, and they're going to find companies, and companies are going to basically have their business card, is what I thought back then, showing their products. I didn't even really know much about service-based businesses back then. Like I said, I don't come from a family that was particularly big on business or that certainly didn't have any ideas about entrepreneurship. I didn't understand how business worked, only from what I had read and seen other people been doing. Like I said, I went to a very, very normal, average school, come from a pretty poor background. I wasn't around business, so all I thought was people just buy and sell goods. Now, knowing that, I decided to start learning how to build a website. I taught myself the skills of software called Microsoft FrontPage, which is absolutely horrendous, by the way. It is an old clunky piece of software that came out from Microsoft where you could actually start to build websites. And the coding was really clunky, it was really inefficient, but what it enabled me to do was start learning how the code made the website because it used to create the code for you. Then I bought a book on C++, HTML, JavaScript, and started to learn those. And I built myself a website showing off Warhammer, which are little figurines I used to paint. And I used to take a few photos, get them uploaded, and I used to upload them onto this website. Then I realized, okay, well, I now want to start selling these things to people because I realized that companies are going to need them. So, cut a long story short, I started asking everybody that I knew whether or not they needed a website. It was everyone in my school, in my class. Because like I said, I was young, I was 13. I think I was in the second year of secondary school, year 8 in the UK. And I asked all of the kids in my class, any parents that I saw, my parents, if anyone needed a website. And at this point, no one really knew what it was or how it was working. And I explained, look, we can build some things where we show your products and services on the website. I can make it look pretty, and then we give you this thing, the domain name, and people can find it, and then you can show it off. And after months and months and months of asking, a second cousin, well, loosely a second cousin, that came through my parents actually and through someone else, that ended up being a second cousin of mine, had a switches and sockets company. And they said, let's give it a go. Let's build it. Let's build a website, and you build me a website. And they said, what's it going to cost me? Well, at this point, I didn't even know how to price things. But I said, well, okay, well, £350. It's going to take me, I think I quoted 3 months at the time. And off to work I went. I was given catalogs, I was given actual physical products, and then I started to code this thing. I very quickly realized that then, well, okay, I'm going to need an accountant. So I wanted to do things properly. At this point, I was pretty naive. So like I said, I asked around, spoke to a few people. A friend of mine, his dad was an accountant. I said, look, I'm setting up this business. Got my first client. They haven't paid me yet. They're going to pay me when I finish. But how do I handle my accounts? They said, well, look, set up a sole trader. Once you've got the money, we'll declare at the end of the year and we'll go from there. The company was called EY's Webs. I made some business cards. All the things that you shouldn't do now to start off with, I did. But point being is I got moving. It took me 6 months to build this client's website. 6 months. Thought it was going to take me 3. It was crap. Okay? But the client was happy. I kept them involved. I kept them communication high the whole way through. And ultimately, I built them a website. Yes, it was on Microsoft front page. Yes, it wasn't the best it could have been. But I had the website. I'd been paid. And ultimately, I had my first client and my first paycheck. I felt like I was on top of the world at this point. I was 13 years old. I'd just been paid £350 when all my friends were doing paper rounds for £15 a week, £10 a week, cycling around on their push bikes, delivering newspapers in the pissing down rain. And I had just set up a company. Told my accountant. He said, well done, Elliot. You're in business. And I was just there thinking, it can't be that easy. It can't be that easy. Guys, it is. It is. What I had to do was develop a skill set, apply it to an opportunity, and sell that thing, that service. It was as simple as that. Now, we're led to believe that we need to do all these crazy things, and setting up a business is for business owners and it's really complex. It literally is as simple as creating a service, finding someone to pay you for that service, then handling all the accounts and the taxes, which you don't even have to do yourself anyway. You hire someone to do that. It's really, really not that hard to get a business set up. You can set up a business today and be in business today, taking money. Today. Nowadays, we have things that are much easier. We have online banking, so you can get a business bank account set up in a day. You can have Stripe or PayPal or some other form of merchant account where you can actually be paid digitally in a day. And even if you don't have those things, you can take cash still. You can literally be in business within a day. You don't have to register the company on the day that you start. You go to an accountant, you tell them what you're doing, they'll file your tax return at the end of the year. Yes, as we get more complex, we have limited companies and all different company structures, that's different. But if you're just wanting to get going, I don't give a shit what anyone tells you. It is so simple to get going today. And I had the mindset when I was 13 to ask the question, why can't I do this? Why can't I set up a business? And literally me just asking that question, I couldn't find a reason why not. And then having a chat with an accountant who said, well, of course you can. There's no age restriction on it. Yeah, you might not be able to get credit cards or you might not be able to get loans, but I didn't need that. I just needed the ability to be able to take money and handle things properly. So simply, I had an idea. I created that idea. I put it into motion and then I sold the shit out of it. And remember what I said, I asked every single person that I knew. I didn't just assume that people would want this thing because I came up with it and it was a good idea. I knew it was a good idea. I knew I'd be able to fulfill on the service, but I still needed to sell the bloody thing. I had to work my ass off for it, but trust me, when you make that first sale and you get that money in your account, you are hooked. It is the best feeling in the world to know that you are in business. And you are not in business until you have that money coming into your account. The minute that money comes into your account, you are in business. That's an incredible feeling. That's an incredible feeling. The benefit that I had as well is because I started so young, I was making money and mistakes, more importantly, at the age of 13. Like I said, the website wasn't great. I ran over on the delivery time of that thing, that website. But I learned that I had to improve my systems. I increased my skill set off the back of it because I'd started. I then understood how to quote and time things properly. I then understood how to deal with clients when they weren't necessarily happy when your things were running delayed. I then learned how to sell off the back of it, because once he had his website and I had my first client, I then built a referral scheme off the back of it. I spoke to him and said, do you mind if I use this website to market to other people's website? And also I said, look, do you mind? Because obviously this is a new industry. He understood. I said, people don't necessarily understand the benefits of this right now. Do you mind if anyone else that I speak to that might want this thing speak to you? He said, no, of course not, Elliot. That's absolutely fine. You've done an absolutely incredible job. So by all means. The second client I had was in the lighting industry. Similar industry that was referred by him because they saw his website and he gave me a good referral. And then they spoke to him about me and who I was. And I was in business. I wasn't doing tons of business at 13. I think in my first year, I probably did 3 websites total. Made less than £1,000. I wasn't rich by any means because I was still at school, I was still learning, but I was in business, I was moving. And the most important thing was I was moving quickly and I was failing very quickly. I was failing forwards. Every time I failed at something or I thought it wasn't as good as it could be, I then applied myself to learn how to improve it. That's why by the time I was 16 and I got approached by Mark, who wanted to set up an e-commerce business with me, which we launched by the time I was 17, within 2 years, I'd made my first million at 19 because I had learned so much so fast. You action, analyze, and adjust. And the quicker you get into the race, the faster this thing will get you to where you want to be. You procrastinating, making excuses as to why you can't be where you want to be, is holding you back. Perfectionism and overthinking is the thing that will stop you getting successful, while guys like me and other young guys that started out are making mistakes over and over again, improving every single day and actually moving. So by the time you get started, everyone else is so far ahead you can't catch up. But if you start today and you get things moving, you're already in business, you're already progressing, you're already learning. And that gave me a massive advantage. I didn't even need to be the best. I didn't need to be the most skilled. I didn't need to have the best genetics. I didn't have to be the smartest. All I had to do was start early because it gave me a massive, massive advantage. Enormous. I attribute a lot of my success to just starting early, literally just starting early. And I don't give a shit what anyone tells you. You can start today. You can build a business. You can be your own boss. You can create something for yourself outside of what's been laid out for you by the system and by society. It's an amazing, amazing thing. That's what I'm empowering people to do with my message, with the Wise Gentleman, with my platform. Within that, everyone in there is doing it. We've got people at 13 all the way up to 50 starting businesses, learning, supporting one another. And all it comes down to is a belief that you can actually do it. Because ask yourself the question now, if you're thinking about starting a business, why can't you? And actually come up with a tangible reason why you can't. And what you'll realize is you don't have one because it doesn't exist. And you have this belief rammed into your head that you can't for whatever reason. And there isn't actually a good one. There isn't a good reason why you can't start today and you cannot become your own boss with your own financial freedom. You've just been programmed to think it. You have to ask the question. And hopefully this very short story about how I did it can inspire you to do the same. And any questions at all, drop me a message, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you on the next video.